having this experience where I was like, man, I could have been gone to all the like poems I have sitting in my notes that I haven't recorded or created visuals yet. All these like script ideas and like movie and short films that I have like sitting in the notes app would have just been sitting there. They would have been left as thoughts. And I would have never have put this art into the world or these things that I have to say into the world. And I really felt like, moving forward, I was like, okay, first of all, we're gonna turn it up a notch because like I almost died. Don't nothing scare me. Like I stare death in the face. Don't nothing scare me.
This show is brought to you by foryourwear.com. Foryourwear.com is the home of many podcasters' merchandise, including myself. You can go right on there and get shirts such as you can go get a shirt from those wrestling girls. Right now they have the Summer Slay shirts. If you're a wrestling fan and your lady likes wrestling and she wants to wear a SummerSlam style shirt, but Summer Slay, you can get those. They also have a Juneteenth collection because we celebrate Juneteenth in June, but why not wear the shirt all year round? And they have a couple other shirts like the Black Lives Matter, Butt Guard, and more. Plus, you can get your Breaking Through Glass Ceilings merch from there as well as from other podcasters. So go to foryourwear.com and let them know Brian H. Waters sent you. One of the things I enjoy about being a mentor is being able to give back. I've been blessed with so many great mentors that it's only right that I give back and be a mentor to others. Today, as we kick off season 4, I bring on my mentee, Jazmine Bunch, aka Jazz on Fire. Jazz is someone who literally just beat death after suffering a brain aneurysm. Listen to her podcast, Here's the Heat, for the full story. I'm excited to talk to her because you'll find out about her journey through college, navigating through the pandemic, landing a job, moving to Atlanta, overcoming a brain aneurysm, and creating her own podcast, Here's the Heat. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is my conversation with Jazmine Bunch. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to season 4 of Breaking Through the Glass Ceilings, and I'm super excited to welcome a mentee of mine. She's somebody who I am super proud of. All the work she's done, the one, the only. I mean, she's Jazz on Fire. I mean, for the only time I say Jazmine Bunch, but then we just gonna refer to her as Jazz on Fire because she's on fire. Jazz, how you feeling today?
I feel great. It is after work, so feeling extra lovely, nice and relaxed. Just ready to have this conversation with you. It's always a good time.
Yeah, I've just been, admiring all the work you've been doing. You've been, create a podcast in the midst of, transitioning to a new job. So we'll get into all that. We met in 2019, right before all hell broke loose.
Yeah,
that's what the year 2019 is known as. It's the year all hell broke loose. But we met via the group me, and I remember you and Chanel. I posted like I was looking for mentors, and one of the things that I do is I'm not just going like, I can be a mentor. No, let's have a conversation, make sure it fit. Thank God it did, and we've been friends ever since. But at the time, you was a student at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
Look at me unintentionally repping today.
Well, all right, so I told you that was like my dream school growing up, right? A thing called college. Once you get to 12th grade, you realize like, oh, you actually got to pay money to go. So that's like, all right, I'm gonna go to community college. And then took a year, was supposed to be 1 year, ended up being 3-year break, and ended up in Morgan State, which I don't regret. But I thought it was like really cool. I'm like, oh, you go to my dream school too. So that's a plus. All right, so what led you to Chapel Hill?
Yeah, so to be honest, money, like you said. Of course, there were other contributing factors. So, for example, I went to this program called Project Uplift, and it's a program that gets you, I think, in the summer after your junior year, leading into your senior year. And it's a diversity-focused program, aimed to give students of color who are interested in UNC a little taste of what it's like to be on a college campus, and especially UNC's campus. And so there was kind of where, first of all, I was like, oh, Black people go here. I'm in there. I'm in there. But as it boiled down to it, I had a really good time at PU. That's what we call it. I felt at home, and then it offered the major that I wanted, which at the time was psychology. I thought I was gonna be a psychologist, y'all. Real cute. And then like I said, money. They paid me pretty good. Like it's not even like I didn't pay. I graduated debt free, but UNC paid me good bucks to come there. And if they
Wow.
offered it to me again, because that
Re-
dream school of yours was a nightmare. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I remember we if you
Yeah.
go back in the archives, we talked
Yeah.
about this was your first time on Breaking Through Glass Steelers when it was the clusterfuck, and
Oh
I
my
say that because that was
gosh.
the headline of the paper,
Yep.
and you as you said then spilt the tea about everything that was going on, and yeah, it's unfortunate, but you thrived, and
Yeah.
when did you know you wanted to get into like content creation, journalism, all that jazz?
So
No pun
all that jazz.
intended.
I love, yeah, I know. I love when I do that too. I think sophomore year. So I actually was lucky enough to have a black, well, he wasn't technically assigned to me. But somebody
Mhm.
was like, hey yo, you gotta go, to Dex Robinson. That was like the black academic advisor that, everybody went to. And so I went to him. Come to find out he's from my hometown. So he's from little old, Bertie County, which is like right down the road from where I'm from, and it's like the same area code. And if you're from North Carolina, we rep our area codes in school. And so, like, from there, had some real conversations with Dex, which I appreciated because I think I mentioned to him one day, I was like, I want to be on TV. And he was like, and what's stopping you? And I'm like, you're right. And so from there, that's kind of where we had those conversations, those tough conversations where it's like, okay, you say you want to do it, but what are you doing about it? And I think
Mhm.
from there, he made this real good point. I love it. I still to this day try to find like my he call it my starting five. I gotta have an advisor. I gotta have, somebody up in, career services, somebody in students, academic student success, And so from there, it just kind of went to really being intentional about creating a plan for this dream that I had. And so from there, I kind of started doing my own thing. And then I transitioned to journalism. I picked up the major, picked up a minor in creative writing. And like from there, I started thriving. I was like, oh, I love this. This doesn't feel like school. This feels like fun. And I want to do this.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, one of the things like we talked about was, the Jazz on Fire brand. When did you create that? Because you were still in school. So, like, was this immediately or did it take a while? When did you create that?
So this is crazy. I love talking about this, but it wasn't intentional. Like, of course, I didn't think about, branding and all of that prior
Mm.
to actually becoming, getting into the J school, and realizing that you can brand yourself. But I do know that before, and I know this is, I guess it was unintentional branding, but before I came to college, all of my Twitter, Instagram, all of my at handles used to be Queen Jazz. So I was like,
Okay.
okay, that's gonna be who I am. But I was like, as I was applying for stuff and started to get into social media, connecting with the other people at UNC, I was like, I don't think I want to be Queen Jazz. Like, I think this kind of childish. We need to level it up. And so I was like, I don't know. And so at the time, Girl on Fire was my jam. And I just felt like it
Oh.
resonated so well with me. And then I also really loved shoes. So
Mhm.
low key, hopefully they don't like get me for this, but it was kind of like a mesh up between Girl on Fire and Kicks on Fire. And I was like, Jazz on Fire. And it's really crazy because, like, just didn't think nothing of it. It was just my Twitter, Instagram, my little handles. But when I got to Carolina and, like, I just had my normal self, but I just became known at UNC coming in, and even before coming in, like on social media, as this fiery personality, like, and people would literally come up to me on campus and be like, hey, yo, ain't you Jazz on Fire from Twitter? Or ain't you Jazz on Fire from, I'm like, shoot, that's me. And after a while, I just kind of stepped into it because I was like, you know what? Like, this is a brand. This is a mood. This is a moment. This is who I am now. And from then on, like, I think people really made me Jazz on Fire before I accepted that was me. That was a brand. Crazy.
Wow, that's awesome. You bring up social media, and so like when I went back to school in 2010, Twitter was popping, but like when I graduated, Instagram had just got started, and it was
Okay.
at this time exclusive to iPhones.
Interesting. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, like and mind you, I graduated in 2013, but it's like how fast social media and then how fast life has happened. Like, wow, that was almost 10 years ago. But I remember when Instagram was exclusive to iPhones, and then when everybody started making a joke about, oh, Android gonna get it, it's all gonna look jacked up, whatever, whatever. But for you, how did like
Crazy.
social media help you through school and navigate? What was some of like the highs and lows you had? You said it essentially created Jazz on Fire before you did.
Yeah, man. I think the biggest thing was connection, being able to like network,
Mhm.
informally networking with people. Like I said, before I got to Carolina, I knew like half the people on campus, or at least half the black population on campus from who's who at UNC, like hashtag who's who at UNC on Twitter. So I think it gave me an opportunity to like network
Mhm.
before coming to campus, and then getting on campus and still having that like that ability to like, okay, I want to connect with them. Let me just reach out to them and see if they're gonna be in the pit today. I think another thing is that with social media, though, it can be a little, I don't even know, like, especially when we transition, like, essentially to virtual school,
Mhm.
and social media and like the group chats or group me was all we had. I felt like it got weird. I don't even know how to
Okay.
explain it aside from it got weird. Like, I was like, "Y'all really did not act like this on campus, but okay." Like, yo, and that just goes back to UNC being weird. But I feel like social media gives you like a layer of protection and a layer of
Mhm.
comfort, and that could lean either way. So,
Yeah. Now you bring up the pandemic. What was it like navigating through school during that time?
oh
Because
my god,
you
I
know
was
it's it,
so
it,
through.
yeah, we obviously talked a lot during that time, but like, how did you manage to stay sane? Because it was so much going on, and you already done mentioned like the nightmare, but like, how did you navigate through everything?
Who said I stayed sane? No, I'm kidding. I can't.
Well, you here today, you here today, and thank God, but
Yeah. So I know at first it was a breeze. We thought stuff was sweet. We like, oh, extended spring break. Cause I think that's exactly what happened. We went off for spring break and then they gave us another week. They gave us another week and then it just became like, all right, y'all staying home. And at
Mhm.
first we were like, oh hi, I can do this. Like, I ain't trying to get up, put clothes on, go to class, none of that anyway. And then after a while, it just became really daunting. Like, okay, especially because I was going into this was junior year for me. And I was like, dang, like this kind of sucks. Like this feels like work without pay. I don't want to do this. I want to just graduate and work if that's the case. Like without the social aspect, school and college just became really really like unpaid labor, and I was like, I'm not with this. It became boring. I was like, I don't want to do this. And then being in journalism, of course, I'm in the thick of my major, so I'm actually out reporting stories and working on like different newspapers and publications. So every story was about COVID. I was just like, yo, I can't
Mhm.
do this. Like, this is too much. I really miss that social aspect. Just the act of getting up and going to class made me feel like a real college student. But just sitting behind a computer and listening to teachers like talk at us for like an hour and 30 minutes on Zoom, I was just like, this was not it. So I really like hate COVID for taking away, half of my college experience.
Yeah.
But you do what you do to get out of there. We made it out, and toward the end of senior year, where like things got a little bit better, people got vaccinated, you could be outside like a little bit. You could be on the porch. I like to say I'm on the porch. It became a little like we started doing a little bit more to make it feel more like college again, like the actual college experience. But it was terrible. And honestly, like I'm glad it's over. Working
Mhm.
and adulting is a whole other thing, but like I really cannot imagine having done my entire experience like virtually or starting my experience virtually.
Yeah, did you so were there certain classes that you wish you would have had in person versus virtual?
For sure. So I was in this class called Carolina Week. It's essentially running the campus news show. And I wanted, of course, this was when I thought I wanted to, be in anchoring, MMJing. So of course we had the opportunity to do MMJ things because it's like, just shoot your live shot and everything outside.
Mhm.
But as far as anchoring, like working in the studio was an absolute no-go in 2020 and 2021. So I didn't get that experience like I wanted to. I don't know if it would have made much difference. I know I didn't want to do news anymore anyway, but that was still pretty cool. I thought that would have been fun.
Yeah. So now, like when you oh, another question I had was when you was did the rules change as far as like teachers if they don't arrive to the Zoom within 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever, or was they always there because it was like
Yo,
it?
I never thought of that. They were always there.
Okay.
So that probably was the rule. I'm pretty sure, like, if I was on a Zoom within 15 minutes, the professor's not there, I would have been out. But a lot of them did like asynchronous, so they would record the lecture and then you just watch it on your own time. I had
Okay.
very few classes where it was like actually, on time. But those professors, they were on time. I guess they were like, there's no reason for you to miss class at your house. You should be
Yeah,
home anyway.
I know I did a lot of a handful of guest appearances for
Hmm.
some classes during the time, and
Okay.
it was cool. You would see like some of the students just like, all right, why are we here? And you trying to make it fun and make it interesting, your presentation, because you don't want to, most people they already mad they not in school, and it's like, especially if it's an evening class, but. It's only probably like out of the, like, let's say it's 15, maybe like 2 or 3 that's like really interested in what you
Yeah,
said.
I'm not gonna lie, because I'm gonna be the fourth person to get my camera off and I'm in there cooking pot roast or something. I'm sorry. Like the class is playing in the back like a podcast and I'm cooking a pot roast. Sorry.
Oh man, that's all. That was one thing that was always it was always funny because you would always talk about like the different meals you would cook,
Yeah.
and post some. I'm like, hey man, I'm hungry. What's your go-to meal? Because I'm pretty sure now people want to know. And no, fellas, you can't slide in her DMs.
Absolutely not. Please don't. No, oh my god. My go-to meal. Okay, my friend just picked on me about this the other day, but she was like, "This is the blackest thing you could ever do, right?"
Hmm.
So I like to do salmon,
Okay.
but I also do this, pasta, and of course it's like basic Alfredo sauce or whatever. But it's a lemon pepper garlic salmon pasta. She
Oh.
was like, "That's the blackest thing you can ever do. Take Alfredo and then take lemon pepper season." Hey, but smacks definitely my go-to now. That's my specialty for sure.
All right, so I'm gonna book a trip, and when I come, I
Come
need to
on,
try it out.
good eats, good chat, good eats.
There we go. There we go. It's just what family do, right? um, so now, I want to talk about like some of your internship experience because, how hard was it trying to get an internship during the pandemic? Because, it's not like your traditional internship.
Yeah. So it was actually easier. You had that accessibility of now you could work from anywhere. So there was no reason why I couldn't get an internship at 30 Rock from,
Mhm.
my 401 NC 54 apartment. So it actually made it a little bit easier. Expanded your options. Everything was virtual, everything was remote. So all of the programs now just depended on like your timeline and how you were able to balance it between your classes. So I think my oh come on, time is a social construct. Whenever the pandemic happened and that
Mhm.
next semester came in, I applied for an internship with the Jimmy Fallon show,
Mhm.
and I was actually scheduled. So I was actually selected the summer of COVID. So summer 2020, I was selected to be a Jimmy Fallon intern. And I was like livid, like I was ready to New York. I was going, and then of course COVID came through to kill, steal, and destroy all those dreams of mine. But I applied again because it was virtual. And so I was able, I was extended the offer again, but it just didn't align with my schedule. So I had
Oh.
that, so the access was crazy. I had it. Like I was able to, I applied for like a bunch of internship opportunities all over the place, but it was just a matter of, aligning with your schedule. If you were applying for something in Cali, I'm on the East Coast, I had to
Mhm.
make sure that I could, be okay with the time difference, working a little bit later or working a little bit earlier, just to kind of like match up those schedules. So that wasn't too hard. Thankfully I will say that was like the silver lining of the pandemic.
Yeah, I will say that, like, for me personally, it helped because now, being working at the Ringer, I can work remote.
Yeah.
The jobs is either in, there's an office in LA and there's an office in New York. So I can work remote and then have the ability, but like you said, like I have, like, for instance, my manager is in California. So, it might be sometimes I'm working later or, for meetings and stuff. But I think it's cool if it's a silver lining from the pandemic, it is that it expanded everybody's reach and
Yeah.
showed people they can do these jobs that they can do these jobs um, remotely and still be effective.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that also opened the window for me to work senior year
Mhm.
with NBC Universal with Sci-Fi, which was quite
Yeah.
an interesting time because I was like, I mean, I don't watch sci-fi. There's nothing on sci-fi currently that I'm watching. So I literally had to like dive into the content and like watch down everything. But like it led to, well, I guess it led me to where I am today. But that was a really cool internship experience, especially because the team was so small. I think it was probably like less than 10 people. So you have like the creative director, and then you have like 3 producers, and then you have like two PAs, and then it was me. And I was like, oh, I can do this. So I was in every meeting with the other, however many of us it was, handful of us. And they actually like assigned me real projects to cut. So I was really lucky to actually cut. There was a show called Surreal Estates. It was premiering on my way out, but they actually trusted me to cut the very first like piece of content that would have aired for us. So I was like, wow, like I really got a good experience working with that team. And had COVID not happened, I might not would have gotten that. And that pretty much like I feel like grounded and I guess like laid the foundation for the experience I had to be able to be hired by Warner Media or considered by any of the other opportunities that I had post grad.
Hmm. Now, when you look back at it, like, well, I should say right there, Universal, did they expect you to have like a ton of editing experience? I know you already knew how to like edit and stuff, but did they really like expect you to have a lot of that? Or like how much hands-on training was you able to get via Zoom and, virtually?
Yeah. So I feel like because of the knowledge I brought in, I didn't get very much training. Of course, I
Okay.
hopped on like some Zoom walkthrough sessions with, my direct manager or supervisor, and she would show me like, here's some cool tricks to do this, or here's a quicker way to do this, which I may not have known. But as far as like training, I feel like I did not get like I was just kind of thrown in, and it was like, girl, you better get in where you fit in, learn on the way type thing. But I feel like that's just been my experience. Period.
Hmm.
That's just me. That's the story.
Well, that's awesome. Now let's talk about Jazz on Fire. When you had your YouTube channel and everything with
Yeah.
that, like, cause look, I would sit back and watch it, and I'm like, wow, especially like the editing techniques that you would do. Uh, what made you go full force with it? With the Fire Aesthetic brand.
Okay, so I realized obviously, like, like I said, everything that I know is pretty much like I learned on my own. And so I honestly, when I was, editing Here's the Heat, I wasn't even using Premiere. I was using like whatever the bootleg default editing service was on my Lenovo laptop that I got from school. So I
Wow.
didn't even have a MacBook. I had like this laptop that probably blew up because I was editing on it. um but I realized that I obviously have a knack for this. I have a talent in this. Like if most of these things came natural, I could be
Hmm.
pretty good with like some solid training. And so, of course, I got most of my training via the J school, but I think I also had to take a lot of YouTube courses and just kind of LinkedIn learning and just really diving in to learn the things that I didn't know, that
Hmm.
the school didn't teach me. And so from there I realized my favorite things to do were creating things that like were fun to me, that resonated with me, that talked about culture, the Black experience with my friends, myself. And so I was like, well, let me just make my own media company because I can do that. I know how to do it. Why not do it? And so from there, instead of, because at first I started with, projects and I was taking on like freelance opportunities, but then I realized when it became like a job, it wasn't
Mm.
fun anymore. And so I had to like reel it back. I was like, all right, hold on. Cause we taking the joy out of our passion. And I realized
Yeah.
that, I would take on paid projects still. But I was kind of like assess and figure out, if this is something I wanted to take on, if it would be enjoyable to actually edit, like if it didn't feel like a job. And so from there, it's kind of built the brand on that. People would kind of seek me out and be like, I saw what you did with this. Like, I want something like that. And I'm like, oh, we can work because if that's what you want, I can do
Mhm.
that.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings with Brian H. Waters. I want to let you know, now you can have your own Breaking Through Glass Ceilings t-shirts. Simply go to foryourwear.com, FORURWEAR.com. Go to the podcasters tab, click Brian H. Waters, and you can purchase your own t-shirt. Appreciate anybody who wants to support the show, want to show that, look, you rock with the message, you've been breaking through glass ceilings. So go ahead and get a t-shirt. I appreciate you. And also check out some of the other podcasters that have signed up with foryourwear.com and the homepage as well. Yeah, that's the thing about, when you try to, build your business, it's always because you want to keep it fun. Because one, you got to deal with people.
Mm-hmm.
And some clients ain't always easy to deal with. You might say, all right, this person, man, they always difficult, you know.
Ooh.
And then like let's just say I'm gonna use church people example, and I'm gonna go back to 2008.
Not you about to get on the same.
I'm gonna go back to 2008. So this is before I was like professional. I remember I did it was a 50th class reunion. And man, some of them people sitting up there, I want this, I want it like that. I'm like, I can't make miracles. I can't take you out of this location and put you in another location and make you 20 pounds lighter. Like it just doesn't work. So, and that's when I was like, you know what? At that time, I don't say this no more, but at that time, the old Brian was like, I ain't working with nobody over 50 years old. But so I definitely understand where you're coming from as far as that's concerned, because you definitely, like you said, you don't want it to feel like work. You still want it to be fun.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you build it, like if this is what you want to do, fine then. But when you're trying to do a little bit and still do, have a career, got to figure that part out.
Yeah, for sure.
So now, oh yeah, so with the Here's the Heat, do you sometimes like want to bring it back, or
I do. I absolutely do. And I feel like the biggest thing was, of course, like, like I said, I was doing everything myself, and I
Mm-hmm.
was still not very like technically and thinking about like, actual technique. I wasn't the best. Like right now, I could like breeze through a Here's the Heat, edit, I feel like. And I feel like though, because of all the struggling I did with it, I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna just leave that, let's let sleeping dogs lie,
Yeah.
But I really like love that on camera aspect, that ability to just, turn on the camera. And then I also think another thing was that, there wasn't, obviously I kind of like, had this unofficial script where I had bullet points of things I would talk about, but I would also just go on tangents, because I feel like that was the theme of the show, just me to just go on tangents. And I feel
It
like
was
now,
something people needed to hear though.
right. And it wasn't so structured and so, formal. But I feel like now the journalist in me and like the on-air aspiring personality in me is not gonna let me just get on and like go on a tangent. Like I'm literally gonna be like, okay, let's run that back and let's delete that. Let's try it again. And so I feel like now with all the strings attached, I don't know, like I would need a production. Like if it's gonna be a production, I'm gonna need a production team. So I feel like that's the biggest thing holding me back. But I would love to bring Here's the Heat back. But I feel like I have in the form of the heat sheet. We're gonna incorporate video. So
oh yeah, let's
yep. We getting into it.
let's go. Let's get into the heat sheet. We'll talk about, if you want to, Warner Brothers, but let's get in the heat sheet. Wow. One of the I was listening to it last week, and I binged a couple episodes. First of all, thank God. Thank God you here.
I'm still here.
You see, they say social media is highlights, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you see a little bit, but when you listen to somebody go through their journey, you talk about, your brain aneurysm, and I was listening, and I'm not trying to be funny, but like I was like cleaning out the tub as I was listening to it, and
not to hit you, you were like, hold on.
Like that's what I'm saying. I ain't trying to be funny by any means, but you laugh.
Black people don't take nothing. Like I mean, I take it, but black people gonna make a joke out of everything, Brian.
We do. That's why I love black people. But yeah, I was listening to it and just hearing everything that you went through. Like I said, but God, and as a parent myself, I really sympathize with your mother. And you talked about that, man. Like, what made you decide to really like jump in, create the heat sheet, and tell your story?
Yes, so I talk about this in my episode. So if y'all want the real deep get into it, y'all gonna have to go check that out.
Link in the bio. The link will be right in the YouTube, and if you're listening on the podcast, there'll be a link that'll direct you right there.
Look at that. But the thing was, obviously, I almost died, and nothing really makes you think about how short life is except death. And I feel like, I talked about this in my episode, but I went to this Black Film Fest up here in Atlanta when I first moved here. And, all the Black creatives, young Black creatives, I mean, like in their 20s, early 20s, were making these movies, these great films. And I was like, man, like, I just don't even have half the courage to do this. And so when they did the question and answer portion, I asked them, I was like, you know what was the final thing that made you say, forget it, forget everything, forget the criticism, forget the voices, forget like all the thoughts. I'm going to make my movie. Like, what made you just get up and do it? And this one girl, I'll never forget it. And it's literally become a motto, especially after surviving a brain aneurysm, is that people die sitting on their stories every day. And she did not want to do that. And I was like, man, like, I got all these stories that I've been holding back from telling for the past like 3 years because I don't know what happened like after sophomore year, but I just felt like I was dimming my light. I wasn't being authentically and fully me. I wasn't telling my stories. I was very quiet, and it wasn't very characteristic of Jazz on Fire. And so having almost, having this experience where I was like, man, I could have been gone to all the like poems I have sitting in my notes that I haven't recorded or created visuals yet, all these like script ideas and like movie and short films that I have like sitting in the notes app would have just been sitting there. They would have been left as thoughts, and I would have never have put this art into the world or these things that I have to say into the world. And I really felt like, moving forward, I was like, okay, first of all, we're gonna turn it up a notch because like I almost died. Don't nothing scare me. Like I stared death in the face. Don't nothing scare me. But also thinking about the fact that like I really could have been gone, and everything that I had to say would have been gone with me. And as a creative, I feel like if that's not your biggest fear, to die sitting on your stories, then think about that and let it be, because like everything that you put out into this world, it deserves to be here because you breathed it, you breathed life into it. You felt like it was meaningful. It meant something to you. You put it out. And so I feel like I said, having this experience, first of all, the experience in itself was a story that needed to be told because God showed out for me. That's one thing. That was a testimony. And so I feel like starting with this so that way people understand, first of all, what happened and why I'm about to be, why I'm about to put my foot on y'all neck as hard as I am, but also to know the passion and like the actual, like all the power behind it. Like it just, I was like, I can't sit on this anymore. I can't sit on my stories. I can't sit on this story specifically because it would do God injustice. And from there, like we just gonna catch up. So if you've been, rocking with Jazz on Fire, you gonna know what we're talking about. And if not, you're gonna be getting a quick, up to speed. And I just felt like now was the time. There was no need to wait. And I was like, I'm not gonna think about all the production or theatrics of it. We just gonna get on the mic and we're gonna talk. And that's exactly what I did for the first like 2 episodes. But then of course that, that production and journalism training kicked in. We getting a little more formal now, but sometimes you really have to just do it. And that's what I did.
Yeah, everybody, make sure y'all check it out. If you're on Apple Podcasts, give it a 5-star rating and
Yeah.
add to the comments so it can, rise up in the ranks. If you're on Spotify, yes, Spotify do rankings now, and it's not just me playing home team, but they do rankings. I mean, that is my podcast platform that I listen to podcasts on for obvious reasons.
We on
But
Spotify. We wherever you need it. We got
exactly,
you.
like that. I'm even show you right on the camera. Boom.
Look at
And you
it.
see it's a 5-star rating. So make sure y'all keep those 5 stars. Make sure y'all support Jazz because it's really good. I enjoyed it. And like I said, just it was and I mean stuff like that. Be honest with you, it's a tough listen, but especially because we're close. So it's like wow, but I mean, thank God you here, and because you got a lot of stories to tell and a lot of people to help. One of the things that I'm want to credit you publicly is you helped me revamp my resume. I remember you sent me your resume to look at. I was like, yo, how you do this? And he was
really?
like, oh,
Look at
yeah,
that.
I could have sworn I told you. But yeah, I started, I went back to the lab and redesigned it and made mine, but it was literally because of yours.
Well, since we giving credit where credit is due, y'all, Jazz on Fire would not be Jazz on Fire if it wasn't for Brian. Yeah. Listen, I think literally a conversation before going into NABJ, because reached out to Brian. I was like, look, you looking for mentees? I need a mentor. And at the time, I was deep into the Jazz on Fire brand, but this was before I decided I was going to be a journalist. And I was like, neutrality and being, objective and just kind of having, a professional, sleek look. I was like, is Jazz on Fire too much? And Brian literally told, like, I was gonna change it that day. I was gonna go be something, like I was gonna go be square, like Jazmine Bunch News or Jazmine Bunch TV, something corny, Not this, no shade to anybody who's out there blank TV, do you? But Brian literally told me, absolutely not. Like, first of all, you have this brand, you're committed to it. I had already had, the color schemes and everything
Yeah.
from Here's the Heat. He was like, are you Jazz on Fire? Yeah, I'm Jazz on Fire. He was like, okay, then you're Jazz on Fire. And like, as long as you stand on that, you're gonna. And to this day, I'm Jazz on Fire. I could have been Jazmine Bunch TV. I could have been the real Jazmine. No, I am Jazz on Fire, and that is because of Brian. Don't let him play homer to y'all.
Hey, look, you talking to somebody who like loves wrestling, right? And there was a time where I was like, nah, I got a wrestling show, this, that, and the other, whatever. And my co-host, the real Dwayne Allen, was like, "No, it's nothing wrong with that." And next thing you know, we had a brand together, which is still going strong. 11 years later, and at that point, especially going into NABJ, one of the things, like, if somebody tell you they know me, but they don't know enough, they don't know that I love wrestling, that means they lying. They don't know me.
Yeah.
Because it'll always come back to that. And even at NABJ, being around, you see like some of the people you see on TV every day or whatever, they come, "Oh yeah, man, did you see Raw the other day?" Like, I didn't know you watch wrestling. Because it's the thing in the wrestling business, there's always a bunch of closet wrestling fans. So people,
Wow.
yeah, oh yeah, oh what? They don't want to admit it, or yeah, like one time we was having a conversation, the Rocket came back, and this is in college, and somebody was, "I saw that last night," but they ain't want the ladies to see that they like wrestling.
Set it out to Saturday night.
Yeah, so that's what it is. So it's a bunch of closet wrestling fans, and and that's what you just gotta be yourself, and being yourself will take you anywhere you want to go, especially if you're real and authentic. And for you, you have Warner Brothers now. What's that like? You first of all, packing up and moving. How nervous was you? You've been in North Carolina. Now you're going to Atlanta. Like, how nervous was you ahead of that?
So I feel like it was scary, of course, moving away from my family. I came here all on my own, so I have no family, no cousins in them, no uncles or aunties down the road, none of that. It's
Oh
just
man.
me. And I felt like that, of course, that was scary, but I was like, I have to take this leap of faith. I have to trust God, because I truly felt like he was the one who ordered me coming here. The way everything lined up, it was just like, I was like, this could only be God. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to follow. I'm going to step out on faith, and I'm going to take this leap. And I did. And it's been a lot of life, a lot of things, but I still truly believe that God ordered me to be here, and I'm supposed to be here. There's something here I have to do. And I feel like, for a second, especially, starting to work straight after school. So I think my contract actually started the Monday following graduation Sunday. And I was like, absolutely not. I ain't that crazy. Give me a week though. Which now I'm like, that was kind of, intense. I definitely should have took more time, but neither here nor there. I feel like stepping into Warner Media, of course, it was new at first. It was, I was learning a lot. I was pretty excited about the things that I was doing. I'm working for a major company. Like, that name gonna ring bells. But I feel like I got to a point where I felt like, oddly enough, I was doing like not enough, but I was also just overwhelmed at the same time. And I could not understand why. And I felt like, of course, one was because like, this isn't the dream. The dream is to be on camera. How the heck did I end up at the very tail end of production, post-production, buried behind a computer, not talking to anybody but a producer? And I felt like that was part of the reason that was, contributing to my unhappiness. I was like, this is not exactly where I want to be. And especially now after the aneurysm. Like, I will say though, I love Warner Media. I love the department I'm in with studios and creative services. It's been pretty cool. I've learned a lot. But I know that like, I want to be really intentional now about, the things that I'm working on and the content that I'm, touching and the ideas that I'm pitching. And so that's just kind of where I am now as far as segueing. And then of course with the merger, so we're no longer Warner Media, we're now Warner Bros. Discovery. So no longer with AT&T, but now with Discovery. That's been, I will say Discovery been putting in some work, trying to get us to like them. So I'm like, okay, but just really being intentional about the things that I'm doing now within my role, because I've been praying about it. Like, okay, God, if this isn't where I'm supposed to be, because I am, a little bit, unhappy, but if this isn't where I'm supposed to be, show me where. And if this is where I'm supposed to be, show me how. And so that's just kind of where I am now. I do love Warner though, Warner Legacy, Warner Media Legacy, Warner Bros. Discovery, whatever. We're going to see what Warner, Bros. Discovery is up to. But really don't think I would have enjoyed being anywhere else, in my first job outside of college other than here. So
And the beauty is that the more you the more you work at it, right? And especially having your own, you being a content creator, having your
yeah,
own program, um, anything can happen, right? Like I always tell people, like I was working at Johns Hopkins for 5 years, great time. The end got a little tricky, especially with more, when you work at a job that long, you build a core group, and then slowly but surely people start leaving.
yeah,
And so as that started happening, it was like, man, it's just not the same around here. But I was working at this wrestling stuff for like 11 years, 10 years. And one call from, a good friend of mine, and he was like, hey, we got something. And I was like, wow, and we both, unapologetically believers. I'm like, wow, God really like set me up,
yeah,
put me in this place, and then boom, now he's giving me the dream job. And I've done things like I never would have imagined, So it's I'm excited for you because like I know you what you're going to do. Like I know you're going to be, a mega star. Yeah,
I
uh
receive it. I receive
I mean,
it.
you're too good at what you do, And I was telling like one of my good friends about you, and how excited I was for this conversation. I was telling about the podcast and everything, and I'm just, I'm really excited for everything that you're going to do. I'm proud of you, and it's like it seemed like yesterday we was all together. Well, it sort of seemed like yesterday, but then again, it don't because it's been 3 years since we all been to NABJ. Uh, but it seemed like yesterday, we was there in what, Miami, and you
Yeah,
was too young to go to the parties.
literally.
But now, look at you, thriving. Looked at in the face, gave it the middle finger, and in wrestling we say a stone cold stunner and kept it moving. And you ready to thrive.
And that's crazy because I feel like imposter syndrome and just thinking about what you said about Instagram being the highlight reels is such a thing because like just yesterday I'm having this conversation with one of my mentors like, girl, I don't know if I can do this, or like, am I sure that I'm built for this? But to like hear that, to be affirmed, oh my gosh, that feels great. Needed it. This conversation was absolutely needed, so thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Before we get out of here, I always ask this question. When you look back at everything, when did Jazz break through the glass ceiling? When did you have that
Mm.
moment that you knew, like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm good at what I'm doing?
Ooh, gotta think about that. Well, let me see. I feel like, ooh, okay, let me see. I can tell you a moment where I knew that I was in a place where I knew I was not supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the summer of 2020. So I'm deep in my journalism bag. I just know I'm going to be a reporter, an anchor, I'm working on like shaping my look, my persona to be a little bit more professional, a little bit more tamed. And as we are covering, the COVID, the pandemic, as we're covering the murder of George Floyd and the racial uprising, I just had this like deep unsettled feeling in my heart where I was like, I literally cannot do this. And I think it was actually the first virtual NABJ where
Mm-hmm.
I was on a call with a recruiter, and they were talking about, I can't remember the news outlet, but I'm not going to call them out either way. But I remember them specifically saying that they don't want their reporters to have, hashtag Black Lives Matter in their bio. And I'm like, are you kidding
Wow.
me? Like, Black people are being like lynched on national television, and you mean to tell me like a hashtag bothers you? And from there, I was like, I remember having a conversation with someone saying, that's not a place you want to work at anyway. But I was like, that's the field. That is journalism. That's the news. That's just how it is. And I was like, you know what? That's obviously just not an industry I want to work in. And so from there, I started making that transition to being a little bit more, creative expression and being able to say what I want to say and, do what I want to do without worrying about my employer firing me for
Mm-hmm.
voicing issues for voicing, my opinion on political issues. No, baby, these are humane issues. This is about humanity. And so from there, I knew that this was exactly where I was not supposed to be. And I think from there, kind of, taking that route of, I want to do more creative production where I have a little bit more freedom to express these injustices that people that look like me are, experiencing. And that was when I knew. I was like, when this felt good, this didn't feel like I was selling out, or I didn't feel like I was unable to fight for what was right. That was when
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was exactly where I needed to be and on the right path.
Wow, that's awesome. Jazz, let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, y'all can find me at on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. I don't really get on Twitter no more, but you can go look at my old tweets because I'm pretty funny. I'm the funniest nigga I know. But Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Jazz on Fire _. And I don't think there's an underscore on TikTok, but you can find me there. You can also check out the work I do on my website, which I just recreated myself. Lost my old one in the pandemic, but that's www.jazminebunch.com. So you can see my spoken word. You can see the things I've been doing at Warner Media, and you can see my passion projects. And if you need, some edit work, hit me up. And of course, y'all can tune in to the crazy things that I talk about on my podcast. If you enjoyed this here tangent that I went off on today's show, you can hear me talk on my very own at The Heat Sheet, and that's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google.
Yeah, make sure y'all check out the Heat Sheet. And again, leave those reviews. They help. They help. They help. So drop a 5-star rating.
Yes.
So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this episode. Like I said, we back. The schedule ain't booked all the way out yet. I ain't gonna lie to you, but usually I'll leave you a teaser. But we back for season 4 of Breaking Through the Glass Ceilings. And Jazz, guess what? You are the first person on here to be a part of the announcement that getting a merch store. You go through foryourwear.com. Y'all see it right there. Shout out to my boy Blue Magic. So if you want to buy a Breaking Through Glass Ceilings with Brian H. Waters t-shirt, they come in orange, white, and black. So they're only $20. I know, everybody got to wear shirts. So, make it affordable for people. Also, the shirt I have on this Juneteenth celebration, you can also get from there. I got to buy a bunch of new shirts too, because I'm like a brother down about 35 pounds. So I'm proud of that. So because of that, I gotta, I went from an extra large, 2XL to a large. So I was like, man, I gotta read through the wardrobe. But it's better to be healthy. I'm trying to live.
Yeah.
But Jazz, thank you. I appreciate you for coming on.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
No problem.